Okay, today we're going to be installing the REME new Halo LED on a communicating train system. I'm going to look at some of the components, make sure they're all in the box. On this particular one, there's, I believe, 3 different ways to install it, and instructions on a communicating system wants a air switch. And we're going to go with the factory recommended Halo LED air switch kit, which is a HLED-AS. This is from RGF, the manufacturer. All right, open it up here. We got relay. Not going to use that relay for this application. Set it aside. A couple important papers. Give it to the homeowner. Extended limited warranty program. Very important. We give this to the homeowner. Contractor and homeowner. See with the reverse side. Registration. Homeowner gets an additional 2 years part warranty. Very important that they get this on an LED. So don't just stick it up here. Give it to the homeowner. Another very important caution. Put it by the UV light. Make sure you put the install date. Recommended cell replacement date. It's up to you. Whether you want to put 2 years, but I usually just put the install date. Some other information goes to the homeowner. Brochures. Just give it to the homeowner. Give them something to read. Later, wire nuts. This is our pattern to cut out the REME, and also this is our gasket that will go on the REME on the plenum, and then we'll put the REME on that. Instructions, something that's important to see. I would highly recommend you looking at these. I'm not going to go through each page, but I will tell you there is one page that's important. It's the step-by-step instructions, and that's on page 5, where it gives you how to install it. And we're actually going to install the variable speed fans with communicating thermostats. And that's when we get into the RGF installation kit, HLED-AS. You can go to that website to find it. And it kind of shows you a little bit here. But that's what we're going to use today, number 3. Also on this too, on the very back page, you'll find there is another pattern. Notice the direction of airflow. The direction of airflow is the same as this point. So always remember that is pointing towards the direction of airflow. Template. Okay, and that's it. It's some foil tape if you need it. That's pretty much it. We're going to put all this stuff back in here so we don't lose it. Set it on top of the furnace. Next thing, open up the top, check for any damages. Want to make sure nothing's damaged. See any broken pieces. Always very important before you get started. Check your product. Take it out of the box. Just make sure nothing's broke. Honeycombs are not broke. A little different. Original. It's not round. Front looks the same. As you do notice, we have an airflow. It's important that we have an airflow that goes the right way. Always pay attention to that. Okay. Another little pattern, airflow. They're stressing, as you can see, it's very important that the airflow go a certain way. Okay, we'll set this to the side. Open up the bottom. And there's our transformer. Tells you color-coded mounting areas. There's our plug. I do not recommend splicing onto this at all. You want to mount this, we'll go over this here shortly. But do not splice this cord. This plugs into the REME. All right, we got that. So what I'm going to do is put this back in. I'm going to put our LED back in here. And we're going to set it to the side with this so we don't damage it. We don't step on it. We don't actually set something on it. Just keep it out of our way. And we'll put it over here for now. Okay. There's the switch kit we're going to use. Just open it up for a minute and see. Make sure, once again, I want to make sure all our components are here. Instructions, very valuable. Make sure you have those. You know, just a simple RGF air sensing switch. You could probably use another air sensing switch kit, but we prefer to use these for right now because of the pressure. We weren't sure what they were required, so now we know. Comes with a hose, and I always check. I believe on here somewhere. Doesn't tell me what. Oh. Doesn't say what you have in there. Usually tells you what you have in here, but you should have a hose, a pressure switch, positive. You have a negative side, very important. And then some connectors, screws, rubber garments, and some zip ties. 3 or 4 zip ties, and I recommend you have some extra. So now we've got everything, hopefully not broke. We'll put this on top of the furnace. All right, put this up here. Okay. First thing what we're going to do, we're going to mount our transformer box. Need a little screwdriver. Alright, now we're going to go over some tools that you'll definitely need for the job, not limited to. Most definitely, as you do these yourself, you might find something that might help you to do a better job. Maybe not too fast. Definitely going to need a drill with a bit here in case we got to make a hole for our 3/8 Romex connector. Also, I use it to start our holes for our pattern for the LED REME. I use that. Cutters for metal, left and right. I highly recommend having one of each. It's hard to cut right with left and vice versa, so just have one of each. Go ahead and have some extra zip ties, and I'll show you what that'll be for later. Phillips screwdriver. Definitely want a small screwdriver, Phillips, to get this off here. Marker to draw for your pattern. A duckboard knife or utility knife will work, depending on your plenum. Some yellow wire nuts for your high voltage. An extension, 1/4 inch extension or 5/16 extension. Depends on what screws you use. They come with 5/16, but 1/4 inch will work too. I use another drill also I'll have that has a 1/4 inch and 5/16 chuck on it. Or bits if we need to use that also. Some high voltage wire and some low voltage wire, and we'll show you where that's going to be to mount this out. Okay. Wire strippers also. You definitely need some wire strippers. And like I said, as you go, we'll point out some other tools if need to be. All right. First thing first is we're going to start off by where we're going to put this box. That's our first option. And wherever you put this box, I can't emphasize enough, we don't want to cut this cord. Okay. So saying that, you got to think, where is this UV going to go? Sorry, the REME going to go. It's going to go in the supply plenum, and the supply plenum's to our left. So what I'll do is look down here at this furnace, and we're going to look here and see where's going to be the best place, because I need to get high voltage to this thing. And I'll open it up and show you right quick what we're talking about. I don't seem to forget. And try to put this screw somewhere where you will not lose it. It's only really small. Pull your lid off. And there's the transformer. As you can tell, you will have to figure out. Always look at your transformer. The sticker may say one thing, the transformer may say another. This says black is common. and this says black is common. So white is 120. White is 120 here. I'm reading right down here the small print, and they're saying here red is 208, and on this also red is 208. So that's good. Always be sure of that. Just because 1 or 2 is right don't mean the other 2 are right also. And blue and green, or blue and yellow, is 24 volts. And I believe it says blue and yellow on this transformer. It'll tell you there's your 24 volts. They've already got it connected, and that's how you're going to get power. 24 volt application. So first thing I want to do is cap off the 2 wires I do not need. So I'll get a couple of these. I prefer orange wire nut, blue wire nuts. Another thing you're going to need is a couple of blue wire nuts. So I'd say a few blue, a few orange, and a few yellow if it was me. And the ones I don't need are red, 208. Do not need these. You can cut these down, it's up to you, but there's a lot of room in here, so I'm going to leave them alone. Orange is 240. So we don't need these. If it was an air handler, I'd be using this orange for 240. So that one's good. So we're all good except for these 2. These are high voltage. Black's common. Remember that, because that's what it says. So be careful. Okay. Now before we get too carried away, I was going to mount this. Okay. Our next step is this box. 2 things we're going to need in this box. One is a high voltage. So we got to get high voltage here. And we got to get a low voltage here, because we're going to use that switch, that pressure switch here. Yeah. It's going to break these set of wires. So I'm not going to run my low voltage with my high voltage, so I'm going to need one more Romex connector hole. So we got one here. Okay, so do not use this for high voltage and low voltage, especially on communicating. I don't recommend it at all. So we're going to find a place where we can mount this, that we can actually service it. And we come up with, if it has a unistrut like this, we're going to choose to do this one here. That way it's out of the way of the door. We were putting them on this side before. This is a 90% furnace, so we got a few more challenges, but this PVC is in the way, and I don't want to go and repipe this. It's not a very cost-effective way, so we're going to mount it on this side. No reason why we can't. You can come out this side low voltage, this side high voltage, because we're going to get our high voltage right here. I'm not going to the transformer. We're going to get it from this box. So is drill me a hole on this side for my high voltage. So we have a knockout for this. So I'm going to take my drill bit, right here, my wire, and I'm going to watch out for these wires here so I don't hurt anything, hit anything. I'm going to be careful. I think I can go right about so, right about there. But what I'm going to do before I drill, I'm going to take my Romex connector. This is just me, what I do. Sometimes I plan ahead too much. I'm going to put that there. Remember, you'll have a door on here that's going to take about a 1/4 inch left. So we got to watch out for that. So I'd say right there's a good spot. Take my marker. I just kind of put a dot right about center. So there's my center mark. So here's where I'm going to start my hole. This is a strong bit, or a good bit, with like an aluminum pin that we're drilling here. I watch my wires. Be careful. No hurry. Don't get no hurry. Don't put a lot of pressure on it. Just gotta be careful. What I was doing is just using it to go sideways, just a little bit more. Don't go too fast. Getting close. That's about right. We'll get it. That's about it. Oh, that almost right on the money. Oh. There you go. That one's in. And since we're going to go up this way, let's make my screws are up. Go ahead and mount this in. I will tell you, sometimes you have to take this transformer out. I will tell you, beware. It's aggravating putting it back in. Because as you can see, those right there, those bolts and nuts, right there, and then that screw, nothing taking it out, but putting it back in, both of them, on a hot day, it's not fun. But sometimes you have to do it. And when you put them back, make sure you put the nuts and bolts back where they were. We want everything exactly where they were per the manufacturer's guidelines. Very important. Let's like this. Yeah, so I didn't take into consideration was that plastic too close. Alright, close to that 24 volts. Pull that out. Got too close to that wire there. So unfortunately, in order to get that tight, just going to pop this out. Needle nose or something to squeeze this. Okay. If you take something out, just put it back when you're done. Makes the job look a lot neater. Just like a technician determined. Never to ask for help. Just dying day. Let's go. We put this in. Let's see if that'll go right back in here.
And I have to screw that in.
All right. Screw that in. We may have to turn it just a little bit more. Definitely never said this will be easy. Unbelievable. I don't think there's a good way to do this. Easy way, should I say. Throwing in the towel yet.
can turn it back.
A lovely assistant, Mr. Fife. Sometimes it helps. Have someone else talking to yourself. Okay. This should be opened up a little bit more. I think, is that our high voltage? Yeah, we'd use it for high voltage. Probably need that open a little bit more. And try to plan ahead, everybody. You know, remember where this is going to go. If you put this in upside down, here's how you're going to mount it. Get to all this thing all tangled. So remember, I'm going to mount it right about here. Okay, so my Romex connector's over here. So if I'd have mounted this screws on the bottom, that wouldn't work. Just mount it on top. Just think of the next step. So that way you can take a screwdriver right there and tighten up your wire. I'm going to go ahead and mount my other Romex connector for my low voltage. And we should be ready to mount this box. You put a request in for a bigger box. Okay.
Side note, this installation does not require a small tech.
Just one with small hands. Okay, once again, this is up. I want to have these upside down, so I gotta be careful of that. I'll loosen it up. Just want to tighten it. Make sure it's going upward. There you go. So now both screws are going up. So now we're good to go. We can go ahead and mount it now, or we can wire in low voltage, high voltage.
The next step would be pre-wiring the box with the high and low voltage.
Before you mount it.
Before you mount it.
Because once you mount it, that's it. So I would definitely recommend let's work on this high voltage. So that's where we're going to mount it. We're going to mount it there. So we're going to set that to the side. We're going to get into our high voltage area, which is here. Take this off. Always observe what you're doing. Don't just hook up the black to black, white to white. Very important. Make sure your power's off. Get a meter. Make sure your power's off. This one here, power's off. We've determined that by using a meter. We got the switch plugged into. Also, it's not on. Using the meter is your safest way to do things. We don't have voltage here. This one here, you got your common, your ground, and your hot leg. This one does have, this particular furnace has other high voltages for humidifier. I believe that's for an air cleaner, EAC. This is for EAC also. Technically, you could actually use this on this particular unit because this will power this every time the fan calls. So every time your fan calls on this EAC black, it will send power to it. So we could actually use that one instead of putting all the high voltages in your neutral. And it has a neutral the same way, right? Not all of them are like this. EAC, electronic air cleaner. So we could actually use that for this application because we want it to come on like electronic air cleaner and every time the fan comes on. So we'll go ahead and use it that way on this particular one. If not, they don't have that, just go straight to your neutral and your hot leg, which is this one here, and just make sure, just because you know they've got this on black and they've got this one on white, that's not necessarily, as we know, what your transformer is. This transformer, the black, is common. So one of these white wires is going to have a black wire going to it because that's what that thermostat, that transformer requires. Just FYI, just make sure that's all right. Very important. On this transformer here, you've got the common, which is white, which it says common there. And then you've got the high side. It's got the black wire. Got 5 here getting ready to mount this control box. He's doing some wiring here, and we'll go over that with you here. It's very important. Do your wiring and everything before you mount this box, and when you do that, of course, do not stuff your wiring inside the box. Let this box here until you mount it down below here. And he's showing you the position of a screw that you'll be mounting here, because you're going to mount one on top, and then more than likely right about in here you're going to mount or install 2 more screws to hold this in place. And how he's got it wired right now, he's got his high voltage here, which will show him where the high voltage, remember, we set our common on this transformer is black. Okay, so we want this black. Remember, this black is going to be our white coming over here to the unit, which, I mean, I would recommend on this black wire from the transformer, I'd hook my common up to it. That way, you know, when you hook up over here, you're white and white. That's why you won't confuse anybody when they come back behind you and said you did something wrong. If you're low, and make sure you hook up your ground, very important. He's got his ground hooked up. And his low voltage wires, what he did was, this 2 wire that's coming over here is going to go to our pressure switch. It's basically like a Beckett switch. We're breaking a wire, is all we're doing. So 1 wire.
No, keep it on, keep it on.
Okay, hold on. Let me turn it on.
No, it's still recording.
Okay.
Alright, so what Richard was fixing to show y'all is how not to wire your low voltage. Again, it's like breaking a Beckett switch. So this was a demonstration to see if he was paying attention. He passed.
Mike wired it wrong.
It happens. As long as it's caught before you turn the power on, you're good. There you go, a little too tight. This one is going to go back. There we go. And there.
So we got our one of these are going to be hot all the time.
This one here is going to be our hot.
Yeah, just put a wire nut on that. That's done. Sure, it's not too big. Okay. And the second one, what we're going to do is go to one side of your 2 wire, like he's doing there. And the other side of the 2 wire is going to go to your transformer. The other side of your transformer, whichever side, hot, common, it don't matter. Because the 2 wires, the 2 low voltage wires he's bringing over here from our pressure switch that we're going to mount is the 2 wire, and we're basically just breaking 1 leg of the controller, of our low voltage controller. So that way, every time the pressure switch goes off or comes on, it'll either apply our other leg of voltage from our 24 volts or not. Which is that transformer there. It's just going to be this one and this one. Real simple. So he's got it all together. Yeah, Mike, you really don't want to put, remember, this is not our neutral.
Correct.
So I would personally start the confusion here.
So you want to start the confusion here, not in there?
Right, so that way you're going to hook up white and black into here. That way we know for sure.
Okay.
Whites. We'll have to edit that.
You get that, Doug? You got some work ahead of you. This whole next segment while I'm rewiring is edible. Not edible, but editable. There we go.
He's correcting it right now. So how Mike's doing it here at the box, since we know for sure that the black wire on this transformer right here is our neutral. So he's going to go ahead and hook it to our neutral common. And the white one here is our power. So he's going to hook it to the hot leg, which is this black. So now when we come over here, we don't want to read this transformer because we fixed it. So now white is neutral and black on this side of the power. White is going to be neutral and your black's going to be hot, just like it should be. Mike made the correction inside the box. So now he's ready to mount the box.
While I've got it off, I'll go ahead and make my adjustments to my Romex connector. Because it's easier while it's in my hand than trying to do it in a confined space.
Even though they're on top.
I don't have to bend over as well.
Don't get them too tight. There's no sense of breaking the wire in half. Be careful. You can cause yourself problems by direct short. Not too tight.
So we're fixing to see here in a minute why you leave the wires hanging out until the box is mounted. Top tab, bend over, down. That's your first screw. That's going to hold the box in place. You're going to need a 1/4 inch self-tapping screw with a 1/4 inch bit. Try it by hand, it's not going to work that well. I'm just letting you know.
And the reason why you want to do this one first is now it's secured enough to where you can try to mount the other screw on the inside. Now you don't have to fight that box.
Now you want your 1/4 inch extension for this particular portion. Make sure you don't get your wires.
Makes it pretty secure, and one more will make it even more secure.
One more on the right. Now, once your box is in, take your wires. If you can, try and keep them neat. High voltage and low voltage, or vice versa.
One thing you will be careful with, don't use too big of wire nuts. If you do, they will fall out, either when you leave or when you're putting them in. Red ones are not recommended. You know, just make sure they're tight.
Cover with miniature screws. Sir. Now the labeling on the box is going to be upside down. It's okay. If you can, don't lose the screw. If you do, you have to use self-tappers. So I recommend trying to start it by hand. Use your thermostat screwdriver with a Phillips end. Even small hands have issues. There you go. Now for the other high voltage, just loose yet.
Yeah. No. Right. Okay, now what we're going to do, See that? He's gonna tie in his high voltage. We're gonna come out of the same Romex connector right here. As you can see, we've got enough room. We should be fine. There's too many of them in there. You're gonna have to make another hole, put another Romex connector. But usually you should just have one in there, maybe two.
In front of that black light.
Tight. And we're going to go ahead and, like I said, we're going to connect it to one with the EAC on this particular one. White is going to be our neutral. Black is our hot on this one because we made our changes on that transformer. That's how we did it.
Side note, EAC and the humid, you got different in color caps. You can't mix them up. I hate these tight spots.
You know, I'm not going to put this in the video. We really don't need that pressure switch on this application, you know that, because you're doing what the pressure switch does right now. This variable speed here, that's going to supply power to here. We wouldn't need that. And we're going to go ahead and do it and continue on with the video, but technically
you don't need it because it gives
that's
power direct
right
there.
It breaks it.
Right.
Breaks it every time the fan is called.
But since we did this,
now, you can still do that right there. It's fine. But your low voltage.
Yeah, the low voltage wouldn't have to be broken in the box.
Correct. You just break.
But
you just do
because we've already broke it. Now we have to commit to it. And for the video.
Right. Right.
Well, this is the way they're going to need to know how to do it.
No, you're right. 100%. On these in the future, when we come across one that's variable speed, true variable speed, we do not need the pressure switch.
Do we need them for Tracy's house? or 90%?
I don't know. I have to check their specs. That's a good point. I'll look and see. I don't know if Carrier does the same thing. Just train.
Carrier is more difficult.
They may have it on their board and not the wire going over here. You have to run a wire to the board.
I can see that. Make that.
Then again, I think he has EACs anyway. Of some sort. Clean up it. Doesn't kind of.
Two of them, yes. Yes, he does. On 2 of them. Back to the video.
All right, back here, Doug. We'll get ready. Okay, he's got them wired up. High voltage, black, black, white, and white. Your black's your power, and like a box. Just remember that, because that transformer is wrong on the letters. I mean, on the wire, on the sticker, to what we're used to. Ground's connected. Always connect your ground. Very important. Must have a ground. So that's good to go. So he's going to tuck his wires back down there and make sure wire nuts are tight. Tuck them back in. And we're going to put the cover back on. Highly recommend, whenever you have those little screws, there's a little plastic thing up here. That's a good place to just put your screws, if they have them. If not, then
figure it out.
Find another place. Okay, so that's it there. Now for the next part we're going to do, we're going to mount our pressure switch. Where we've chosen to mount this pressure switch, this is low voltage. So it's okay if we mount it on the exterior, is fine. A couple things, we want to make sure these are tight. Would not get your crescent wrench out and bear down on it. I will tell you too, this hose here, careful when you're plugging it in here, because you can break this portion. Be careful. Go slow with it. Especially on a cold day, I bet it could be a little tough. But once you put it on, it ain't coming off. You're gonna have to cut it off. I don't know why you have to take it off, but if you did, you just might as well snip it and get a razor knife and cut it. Now we're gonna make a small hole in the plastic so we can run our tubing. And we're going to make sure when we position this, when we do screw this, we definitely don't want to, this is a 90% furnace, so we want to verify that's not going to be in this inducer housing here or the condensing coil that's back behind here. So we want to make sure when we do that, nothing's going to affect it. Don't use 2-inch screws. And we're running our hose. He's running this hose down here, and we have a hole on this side. This manufacturer has got a hole right here, which is great. So we're going to run it up here, you run it through here, and it come out of this little hole, because we need this. And this blower, we're going to mount it to this bracket right there. Okay, I'm going to put a couple zip ties so it's going to get this air right here. Okay. And the reason why, because the instructions which you have clearly states you get a negative pressure here, negative pressure, and then you're going to have a positive pressure here. It tells you right here, positive pressure. So there, and you got right there. So that's what he's doing right now. We're going to get it in that blower housing by the wheel, and the other portion is going to be in our furnace. Let him connect that up. We'll use our static pressure hole right over here. As you can see, we've already got a hole for static pressure. So we'll take that tape off here shortly and there'll be a hole here and we're going to use that. But right now Mike's taking that hose, one end of the hose, which is the negative side. This is going to go to the negative side of your pressure switch. And I recommend 2 zip ties. The reason for it, one breaks, you got the other one to back it up. And this is something you need to be checking on a maintenance plan. Look at that zip tie, make sure they're good. One's broke, put an extra one in there. Neither one of them are broke, you're good to go, but always check it. Should be part of the maintenance plan. It's real simple, just take a look at it. Make sure everything's connected right. Hose didn't pop out. Hose is not fixed to get ate up by the... See, he's got 2 zip ties. If you can tell, barely tell, but he just got it right in here to where it's got a negative pressure. So that's good. Always be sure to, before you make a cut, this is all the hose you got. Make sure you've got enough hose to go from here over to your other spot, because we got a positive and negative, so you're gonna have plenty right there. So he can cut it, so he's good there. Showing you the negative. It's the negative side on the bottom. That's where the blower is. Top side will be the positive pressure. There should be a positive on that one also. I would say negative is always on the bottom, but always remember, check it to make sure. Just check it.
Who were those 2 guys? Yeah. Come on, you. Was it Cisco neighbor?
Yeah, what about him?
The older, the young skinny guy, real quiet.
The one was dead. Well, he couldn't speak. He couldn't speak.
Well, yeah, he couldn't speak.
Just gonna leave her, yep.
That's now, before you screw into the left side,
you may want to measure to make sure your depth. Make sure your depth. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. The depth here. You just want to make sure that we're not too far. Which
you should. So as long as you're in front of these screws,
I'm just going to make sure. I missed my firewall back there here. So I'm about this far. So I just want to make sure when he mounts this. So he's good right there. We might go a little bit closer. Right there, he should be good. Because I don't want to damage the condensing coil. And then we have a water leak.
what's wrong with your bit?
Reverse it out.
Out of there.
Coming out. These actually come with 5/16 screws. We're using 1/4 inch today. You can use 1/4, you can use 5/16, whichever ones. No sense bearing down too hard because you can break the plastic. Just be careful. So that part of it's done. We're going to use the static pressure hose, or the hole, should I say. He's going to use that static pressure hole. We're going to use the rubber garments that it came with. Get a tight fit.
It's easier to put the grommet in before the hose. It doesn't give as much as the grommet does. Whoever did these holes did a great job. Now you want to work the hose in so that way you don't push the grommet all the way through. Once the hose gets started, it's pretty easy after that. But if you have to, you can take your unibit and widen that hole a little bit. We're good right there.
You don't want to go way down inside there. If you've got 4 inches left of this hose, don't stick it inside the furnace. There's no need for that. This pressure switch is just a 0.14. It'll tell you right here what it is, 0.14. That's not a lot. So
we got one more remote connector to use. And that's going to be for the low voltage wire on the bottom side of the furnace. Right there.
we're trying to use the existing holes that the manufacturers give us. That way we don't have to drill a bunch of holes. We don't have to. He's running the low voltage for the pressure switch. This is what's going to break the REME LED. The 24 volts going to it.
We're going to go around the high voltage, around the gas pipe. Back up our Romex connector. Bring it up side. Hole, we got the pressure switch hose going through. Sometimes even reset the nut.
Almost. So all he did was you just want to be neat with it. Make sure you're not wrapped around everything and it's splicing or cutting something. He ran it on the back side down here, back behind this gas pipes here. Behind the high voltage. So basically ran it through by this box here, right here. It ran it through here, ran it behind behind his wire, behind that, and he made his Romex connector here. Come up there, and he's coming on this back side up here and through the same hole as his hose. So it's all together.
You have more
Like I said at first, when we started this, we gave you a list of the tools and told you there might be more as you go, and a crimper is one of them. You want to have a wire crimper to crimp the spade connectors to your low voltage wire. They only give you 2. I'd have some extras on your truck in case you lose them or make a mistake. I wouldn't use pliers or channel locks. Use crimpers or your low voltage cutters. Just get you some crimpers, and it makes a better looking job, and it crimps it down too. Nice tight fit. Doesn't matter whether the white wire goes here or the red wire goes here. You can flip flop them, it doesn't matter. So if we can put the white one here, it's fine. It is, it's a switch breaking, that's it. So he's done, he's hooked it up. Last thing we got to do is we're going to mount the REME on the supply plenum. There's a couple different patterns I've pointed out that we can use, and we have chosen to use this one here.
This seems to be the best.
It's got a sticky on it. We can stick it on there and cut out the insulation, and but that's how we're going to do it. A couple different ways.
So we can mount the top of the supply plenum, we can mount on the side of the supply plenum. As long as the airflow, the direction of the arrow is pointed towards the direction of airflow, you can mount top, side, and that's about it. Unless you want to be cheeky, you can mount it on the back side, but you'll be the only one servicing.
The one thing I will emphasize, we want to install it to where we can service it. Where are we going to service it? If you can't comfortably sit where Mike is sitting right now, and then don't put it there. And if you've got enough wire, put it on top to where it's going to be easier to service, because you will be the one going back out. Just remember that. Easy service. So we got 2 choices.
Well, here, be mindful of your splash shield and where your halo is going to be pointed, and also the mounting hardware that may be in the way of the actual base of the halo. So pulling it out, it doesn't get bound up, because these are serviceable, unlike the original REME halos. So we're going to go with the top mount. I think would be better. Damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Shield. Well, let's get it forward. Yeah, you're fine right there. Should be fine as far as the... Okay, first thing he's going to do is cut out the insulation. And you know, you want to keep these tight. I can't emphasize enough of that. Tight fitting. You don't want to have a big gash in your insulation. You don't want to have a big gash in your metal of your cutting of the metal, because all that's going to do is allow cold air to escape and condensation to occur, and you don't want that. So just keep it as tight, you know, maybe a 1/4 inch bigger on your line whenever you cut it in the metal was about all I would go, maximum 1/4 inch bigger than your outline. Don't cut a circle. I would cut just like it does. I mean, you can use that pattern like he's got that insulation right now and just draw it out that way. That way you've got some type of pattern when you move that insulation. And I would say you'd go 1/4 inch outside that line and you'll be totally fine. However way is easier for you to. Okay. You can either, hold on. Yeah, go ahead.
And this is where your left-handed, right-handed sheet metal cutters will come in handy.
He just made enough holes to where when he starts cutting, it's just going to be less cuts. And as you can tell, he went a little over his line, which is fine. He'll cutting point. Try to make a neat cut, not a bunch of fish hooks. If you got fish hooks, they call them, get rid of them. Don't think about the next technician. Don't want to get them cut either. Or the homeowner. Homeowner could come up here and try to look at your work and pull that out and cut their finger. I personally say the more holes with that bit, the better for you. Makes your life a little easier, but it's, you know, whichever's easier. Some of you may be liking to use these cutters here, shears, snips. And you can take your pattern if you want to, just to make sure it's big enough that's going to fit in there. So this is going to be the gasket that goes in there. We're going to use this for the gasket. That's your actual gasket. That will actually go there when you know that it fits. Do not mount that till you know it fits.
What I do is I take the actual halo itself and I put it in the hole. It goes in easily without rubbing the sides horribly, and it will suffice. Direction of airflow. It ain't that way. Direction of airflow. So it's going to be wording upside down. Goes in. So before we install it, take this gasket, peel one side or the other, stick it on there, line up the holes where your screws are going to be going, and then now there will be another video on these REME Halo LEDs. These are serviceable, not just by looking at the light.
Flip it. Oh, no, flip it. Oops, sorry, I'm sorry. That's right.
Oh, nope, can't do it that way.
That's right, you're right. Well, wait, yeah, you can.
You gotta go like this.
Oh, you're right.
So be mindful when you do take off these wrappings. Oops. There we go. Alright.
It'll definitely make you watch for detail, that's for sure. There you go. Watch your airflow. Remember the airflow and the arrow. Watch that. It came with
screws. Secure it. Box. With the blue wire nuts. It comes with exactly 3, and they are shit. Forgot the drill. It's gonna be a fun video. Thanks, sir. And these are 1/4-inch screws. You don't have to over tighten it.
Definitely use these screws. Do not use the short ones. Always use the ones that REME gave you. You should always use what the manufacturer gives you. That should be your first attempt.
To pull the halo out, turn counterclockwise, not very far, pull the cover off. Next, brass nut. Do not lose. I apologize. Make sure your wires are pulled to the side so you don't catch them. There's a tab right here to grab.
This is not part of the install. No, this is not part of the install.
No, it is not.
So that'll be another video. So we'll have to edit that out. As soon as he gets done, I would say it, but around. We'll continue on here. That's a good point to take that off. Yeah.
Alright, once you pull that cover off, make sure all your wires are connected, because things do happen from a factory. Make sure all the connections are tight before you plug anything in. And to reinstall it, over there, twist it clockwise. The
last thing you want to do with this, you want to put some silver tape but you want to line this thing with silver tape in here. Don't get it here, just before that, because if you ever have to pull this off, you don't want that silver tape on it. But we're just blocking any cold air that might escape here is all we're doing. They give you some tape from the manufacturer. I'm not a big fan of it because it is hard to use. Use some silver tape, venture tape or something, and we'll work just fine. Unless you can get the one from the manufacturer, then that's fine too. But definitely put some tape on that. Cold air, if we can prevent it from coming out of here, because you're going to have some come out of the vent holes that you can't do nothing about. If you want to put some mastic, that's fine. I would not put a bunch on there. Maybe a thin coat, but tape will work just fine.
Make sure you don't put tape on the plastic cover, because that is designed to be small pieces on the corner.
Plug it in. Once you're finished with the tape, everything's done. Also comes with that sticker I showed you earlier. You can mount it on top or the front. Just put today's date. And we just got to make sure we keep that there so everybody knows the dangers of the UV light. Okay. All right, we're turning the power on, and we're gonna
Trim your zip ties in the blower motor. So they don't get sucked in, causing issues.
We've applied power, and our next goal is to two ways you can do this. We can do a blower test on this machine, or we can go down to the thermostat and turn on the blower just to make sure. We want to make sure this light over here comes on. first plies power, you will hear kind of a vibrating sound, so that is normal for this machine. And you'll get a light, an LED light here. It's green, you can barely see it. Yeah. Nope. Nope. Thought you said it stayed on for a minute anyway. Oh, you know what? Yeah. Okay, Doug, we're gonna edit that. I'm gonna try this again. Okay, we're going down to turn the thermostat on. Turn it on fan. This first comes on, you hear a vibration. That's normal. And you'll see a green light. There's the vibration. There's your green light. Your REME Halo LED is now functioning properly. It must cycle off after a call for heating, cooling, or fan. That says design, and it'll cycle back on when you get a fan call, heating call, or cooling call.